All right, welcome to the rough, uncut Brewing Shenanigans Learn to Play video. I'm your host, Anthony Treadway, and these are my hands. I want to preface this video with it is going to be bare bones. We'll be putting out a video of higher quality relatively soon, but we felt as though we needed to get something out there that was easily accessible for just the basics of the game, especially for those of you who have downloaded the print and play off of the website. First, we greatly appreciate it. You giving the game a chance means the world to us, but we know that there may be some questions and maybe the rulebook just is not answering those questions. So hopefully this video does so. If this video is not thorough enough in any capacity, please do not hesitate to reach out to us through Discord, DM us on Instagram, email, whatever medium you feel comfortable with. Just let us know your questions so we can get them answered. And without further ado, let's learn to play Brewing Shenanigans. Alright, we're going to start with setup, and we have this beautiful playmat to help us do so. When setting up Brewing Shenanigans, you will place the 4 drinks in the center row, being the latte, cappuccino, cortado, and macchiato. Place the ingredients cards, being the espresso and the steamed milk, in 2 separate piles at one end of the row. Shuffle the Shenanigans cards, boop, 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 and place them at the other side. Each player starts with 1 Shenanigans card in hand and should have 3 separate tools in front of them: Tamp portafilter, steaming pitcher, and the siphon. Each player starts with 6 time. Make sure the time token pool is in easy reach of all players. Each player can also use a rules reference card if they so choose. But for this video, however, we are going to put them off to the side because I am technically the rules reference card. And lastly, we have the first player token. Now, to determine what player will go first in a 2-player game, you can flip the first player coin. We have the latte art on one side with the NS on the other, representing Nebulized Studios. Winner of the flip decides what player goes first. Now this is different in a multiplayer game, and I'll run through that as well as setup for a multiplayer game at the end of the video. Now, to be the victor in Brewing Shenanigans, you want to have accrued the most points through crafting these drinks and or investing time onto your siphon when the game ends. Brewing Shenanigans is played in rounds, with each player taking a single action on their turn. There will be a constant back and forth until players' resources are depleted and they are forced to consecutively pass, which will end a round. The game ends when at the end of a round, there are no drinks in the center row to be crafted, and we'll show you what that looks like a little bit later. So first, I want to discuss the options players have in regards to actions. The first of which is using a tool. All right, the first tool we're going to go over is the Tamp and portafilter. To use your Tamp and portafilter, you will spend 1 time and dirty the tool. Now we're going to turn it to the side to notate this. Dirtying the Tamp and portafilter produces 1 espresso. This tool can only produce 1 espresso per use unless you play a Shenanigans card that states otherwise. Okay, so when you use the Tamp and portafilter, spend your time. To produce 1 espresso, you will take an espresso from its designated pile and place it on the dirty Tamp and portafilter. This is not a crafted espresso. It is a produced espresso that is used as an ingredient. All right. Now, the steaming pitcher is different in that, as an action, you can use your steaming pitcher by dirtying it. We're going to turn it to the side again, just like the Tamp and portafilter. And you will make steam milk equal to the time tokens you choose to spend. So to show that, I can spend 2 time to produce 2 steam milk, 3 time for 3, 4 times for 4. If I wanted to, I could spend all 5 of my remaining time and produce 5 steam milk. Now, that's a bad idea and I'm not gonna do that. So for teaching purposes, I'm going to spend 1 time and produce 1 steam milk. It is important to note that when you dirty a tool, it cannot be used for the remainder of the round unless cleaned by a Shenanigans card. Again, Shenanigans cards will come up a little bit later. Now we're going to leave these ingredients here for a moment and move on to the siphon. Now, the siphon is unique in that it does not dirty when you invest time onto it. As an action, you can invest 1 or 2 time per action onto your siphon. Now, time invested remains on the siphon the entire game and cannot be used later to produce ingredients. The invested time is also not removed at the end of a round. They remain permanently on the siphon. At the end of the game, however, you will gain 1 point for every 2 time invested onto your siphon. During the game, they are not counted as points. Only at the end, when counting to determine the victor, does time invested have value. Now, let's move on to crafting a drink from the center row. Each drink has a point value listed in the top right corner of the card. Latte is worth 3, cappuccino is worth 2, cortado is worth 1, and the macchiato is also worth 1. Each drink also has the required ingredients needed to craft it listed at the bottom of each card. So point value, ingredients to craft. So the latte requires 1 espresso 3 steam milk, cappuccino requires 1 espresso 2 steam milk, cortado 1 and 1, macchiato also 1 and 1. Now, when crafting a drink from the center row, you will combine the ingredients you have produced that are still on your tools. I have 1 espresso and 1 steam milk. I will use my action and state that I am crafting the cortado, returning the required steam milk back to its designated pile and placing the espresso underneath my cortado in my score area, like so. And we're gonna put these Shenanigans cards over here. Now, this action requires no time, just the combination of previously produced ingredients. Now, something that's pretty important. If we reverse and let's say the opponent plays a Shenanigans card that allows them to steal my steam milk, okay? I just have a poor lonesome espresso here with, you know, my Tamp portafilter. Can't do anything because all these require steam milk. But what you can do is craft it just like you would craft a drink. You can craft this produced espresso as an espresso shot worth 1 point. Now, this is no longer an ingredient. It is a crafted drink. You can't use it later to craft one of the other drinks from the center row. It is a crafted drink worth 1 point. Now, I have 2 time left, and we have 2 more actions to go through. We're going to visit the Shenanigans aspect of the game, which I know everybody is excited about. So, on your turn, you may spend 2 time and use your action to draw a Shenanigans card. Your hand limit is 3. You may not have more than 3 cards in your hand at one time. At the beginning of the game, all players start with 1 card, but that is the only free card you get. For the rest of the game, a player will use their action and spend 2 time to draw a Shenanigans card. Okay, now, this brings us to playing a Shenanigans card. Let's see what we have here. Looking at a card, you will see 2 separate abilities. Let's get yeah, we're gonna go with this one. This one's exciting. You have a top and a bottom ability. Top ability will directly help the player playing the card, which in this case is me. where the bottom ability will typically disrupt the opponent. On your turn, you may use an action to play a Shenanigans card from your hand. When you do, aha, see? Steal one steam milk. So, I'm gonna play the Shenanigans card. When I do, I have to choose to trigger the top or the bottom ability, not both. After the ability resolves, place the Shenanigans card just played in the discard pile, and it'd be the next player's turn. To show you what that looks like, on my turn, I'm going to play the Shenanigans card, triggering steal one steam milk from an opponent. Take that back. It's mine again. That's my turn. I put this in the discard pile. It would now go to the next player. Now, let's talk about what the end of a round looks like. As you can see, the 6th time I had for the round has all been spent. If I choose not to play a Shenanigans card, I will pass my turn. When all players consecutively pass, the round ends. At the end of a round, players clean their tools, so stand up. Any ingredients on those tools return to their designated pile. Each player returns to 6 times. Give me this time back. Any shenanigans drawn, you know, this one I have, they wouldn't know, remains in my hand. The first player token would be passed, and a new round begins. Also to note, again, these time on the siphon stay, they don't go anywhere. You stack them. Players will continue to go back and forth until all drinks have been crafted. At the end of a round, when there are no drinks in the center row, the game ends. Not when the last drink is made, but when the round ends and there are no drinks in the center row. This gives a player, players a chance to spend time and play any Shenanigans cards that then may have an impact on the game. What that would look like is, let's say I kept that cortado, they made the latte. I was able to make the cappuccino, they make a macchiato, and most likely there'd be espresso shots underneath there. And, I've ran out of time, they've ran out of time, we have no Shenanigans card to play, I pass, opponent passes, game ends. You then would count up points, right? So the espresso underneath this drink makes the point value an additional 1, so the cortado in this case would be worth 2, cappuccino worth 2, and I have a 2 times, so I'd get an extra point. Now, they would have 1, 2, 3, 4 if this was the end of the game, and I would win due to me having an additional point for my 2 time. All right, now, Brewing Shenanigans, you can combine multiple copies of the game to support a larger player base. So if you combine 2 boxes of the game, you can play up to 3 to 4 players. Now, what the board looks like is, instead of the 4 basic drinks in a 2-player game, we are now gonna have 8. And you just slide them under here like so. We do this for, efficiency, real estate efficiency on the board. Make sure everything's not flying around everywhere. Make sure you can see the points, so you know that a second drink is there. You would shuffle the 2 Shenanigans decks together and obviously stack the ingredients. Each player would have their own sets of tools. And the only thing that's really different about a multiplayer game versus a 2-player game is obviously multiple, more Shenanigans cards and multiple drinks. But it's really, the hardest part is determining the first player. Now, we can't obviously flip a coin. First player token will still be used to represent first player, and at the end of a round it'll pass. But to determine a first player in a multiplayer game, 3 players or more, you're gonna take a Tamp and portafilter, take the first 10 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, you're gonna shuffle this Tamp and portafilter into those cards and just go around and reveal it. So player 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? make sure I shuffle it good and well so I'm not stacking the deck. Alright, so player 1, player 2, that easy. Player 2 would end up going first, return the tool, shuffle the Shenanigans cards, and continue. Alright, so now we're going to go over some specific Shenanigans cards. And it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. Just to clarify specifically what they do in case there's any questions, you can reference this part of the video and hopefully everything will be clear. So the first one we have here is, oh, here. If you are more than 1 point behind an opponent, invest 4 time into your siphon from the time pool. I'll let you read that again. So if you are 2 or more points behind, when it comes to crafted drinks, you don't count what's on the siphon, right? That does not count until the end of the game. So I'm clearly 2 or more points behind. So if I play this, you take 4 time from the time pool, right? And you place it, and that gives you 2 points at the end of the game. That's how that card is utilized. Now, moving on. Top ability is pretty self-explanatory, but the bottom ability here, I want to explain a small detail. So, steal 1 steam milk from an opponent, right? On my turn, I play a Shenanigans card, choose to trigger the bottom ability. I'm going to steal their steam milk, right? Now, what's important about this that I want to note is, let's say I had produced no steam milk and I just stole the steam milk from them. I can still utilize my steaming pitcher because it is not dirty. So I can produce more steam milk with my steaming pitcher on top of what I've stolen. Okay? So that card's pretty straightforward. Now, next Shenanigans card. Craft a drink, increasing its point value by 1. Now, when using this card, I'm going to use the Shenanigans card here, triggering this top ability. Now, it's telling me to craft a drink, okay? I do need the ingredients produced to be able to craft, but I don't have to use the action because I'm using the action on this card to tell me, thank you, buddy, to craft a drink. So to do so, I'm gonna craft this macchiato using the steamed milk and then placing this Shenanigans card underneath, increasing the point value by 1, okay? Next Shenanigans card. So, this next Shenanigans card is, use one of your steamed milk, or let me read it and I'll let you read it. Use one of your steamed milk to increase the point value of one of your crafted drinks by 1, right? So to do so, you play the card, trigger the top ability. You're gonna use one of these steamed milks you haven't used, right? You're gonna put it to its designated pile and then place this underneath that drink, increasing its point value by 1. Now, bottom ability here. Use one of your steamed milk, right, to remove an opponent's crafted espresso. All right, this is how this works. Fun stuff. Play the card, trigger the bottom ability, use one of your steamed milk to remove an opponent's crafted espresso. Now, that does not mean they're produced espresso. This is produced. These are crafted, okay? I discard that steamed milk, and now I can remove one of these espressos. And for clarification, let's say they had crafted this as an espresso shot. This is still a crafted espresso. So with this card and discarding one of these steamed milk, I can get rid of one of these espressos. We'll get rid of this one. Okay. Now, to the most exciting card in the game. Everybody hunts for it. It is spill a crafted drink. And we'll get into the top ability in just a moment. But spill a crafted drink, that's the one we want to go over right now. So as you can see in game, the game is probably going to end soon. There's no drinks in the center row. I've climbed back up magically. No, I didn't stack the deck to show you guys anything. So we're at 6, 7, 8 points. Massive, right? So let's say they don't want the game to end, all right? The opponent is going to play this spill a crafted drink card. They choose to spill one of these drinks. Now, as an example, I'm going to have a crafted espresso here also. They can craft they can spill one of these drinks. If they do so, the drink would go back to the center row. All cards attached to it are discarded, okay? And then the game can continue. Now, just to show a little bit of strategy here and any questions to clarify, this is a crafted drink. That spill a crafted drink can also spill this. There's many times where we've seen people are tied in points or one person's 1 point ahead and they're utilizing a strategy called the espresso train. And if the opponent would just spill that crafted drinks, you know, that crafted espresso shot, and they tie in points, the game can still end, and maybe they win by having the most drinks crafted or most tokens on the siphon, which we'll get into in just a moment. Now, the last final caveat, right, of this card, the only card in the game that functions this way is this top ability. Prevent a crafted drink from being spilled. So, they go to spill my drink. I can respond with this ability by playing it, canceling that card. They're both discarded. I then skip my turn. It goes right back to that opponent. In a tiebreaker, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's say we remove this. We're tied in points, right? The first tiebreaker is who crafted the most drinks. We both have 2 drinks crafted. So we move on to the second tiebreaker. The second tiebreaker would be who has the most time tokens on the siphon. I have more time tokens, so I would win. Well, for all of you who have tuned into the video and watched it till the end, we appreciate it.